Jessica Lloyd, 27 years old, resident of the small Canadian city of Belleville, vanished in late January 2010. Her family made phone calls increasingly frantic, went out searching, put up posters, and waited. Andy Lloyd is Jessica's older brother.
Everybody was on edge, just waiting for, good news to come through.
It never came.
Her face posted across the country.
The 27-year-old Belleville woman went missing on
the story was all over the local news. Chris Millette has worked for the Belleville newspaper, The Intelligencer, for 3 decades. He's covered just about everything during those years.
I think for a span of several days, we had page 1 stories almost every day.
It never occurred to anyone at the paper, said Millette, to link Jess Lloyd's disappearance to other unsolved crimes in the region. The 2 sex assaults in Tweed, or the murder of a military woman, Corporal Marie-France Como, a short drive away in a place called Brighton.
We were thinking, okay, we're in a run of a bit of bad luck right here in this community right now.
The Lloyd family didn't make the connection either, though Andy says his sister was well aware of the sex assaults in nearby Tweed. She even had a name for the man responsible.
His nickname around my sister and her friends was the Tweed Creeper. Like, that's what they had called him. Lock your doors, the Tweed Creeper will get you.
The Belleville cops and other police forces declined to discuss details of the investigation into Jessica Lloyd's disappearance, but Corey McMullen, chief of the Belleville Police Service, will say this much. Her officers were scrutinizing links to other unsolved crimes in the region early on.
Because we had Jessica reported missing to us and because it was unusual circumstances, we were dedicating as many resources as we could. And that includes looking at what's happening in your neighboring jurisdictions.
And what was happening?
And we were aware that there had been 2 serious crimes out in Tweed against women, and that there was another situation in Brighton where a woman was murdered.
And that's not that far away? It was just
no, it's not
road.
too far away. It was enough that at the beginning it's let's make some contact and have some conversations and see if there's any potential connections.
But first there was work to be done, starting with those clues Andy says he discovered outside Jessica's house. There were 3 sets of footprints, one going toward the house, the other 2, one smaller than the other, heading out of the house across the field. Investigators quickly realized the smaller set was a likely match for Jess Lloyd's boots. And those tire tracks preserved in the field, the ones going off-road into the field, they soon nailed the tire type. They were Toyos. Because it had reports an SUV had been parked in that field the night Jess Lloyd vanished, they could also narrow down the make of the vehicle.
From the wheelbase, they figured out there was only 3 possible makes that this could have been.
Only 3 makes. A Toyota 4Runner, a Jeep Cherokee, or a Nissan Pathfinder. But which one? Could they track it down? On Thursday, February 4th, a week after Jess Lloyd went missing, the police set up a roadblock on the busy highway in front of her home, stopping cars. One officer chatting up the driver, another surreptitiously checking tire treads. Afterwards, the police called Andy. They'd made some discovery.
They just said, we found something that possibly could be very, very crucial. And that's all that we knew.
Soon after, teams of officers went door-knocking on the highway in front of the Lloyd place. Ann Marson Cook lives 5 miles down that very road. Her friend Howard Gray has a place nearby. And that's how she and Howard found themselves once again telling a couple of cops the story of Ann's November break-in.
When they came into the door, then I said, okay, I don't know, anything, but have I got a story for you guys that's got to be connected to this?
Howard told the officers about Ann's break-in, the underwear taken, sex toys stolen. He told them, too, that he and Ann strongly believed her break-in was linked to those sex assaults almost 5 months before in Tweed.
They got it.
They got it. Yes, they did.
Now, Ann was convinced her case was linked to Jessica's disappearance.
It had to be related. I mean, I felt so scared for her, for me, for all the women.
Sunday, February 7th. Jess Lloyd had been missing for 10 days. That night, Andy Lloyd, who was at his mother's place, got the news he had been dreading.
Yeah, they just said she's gone. Yeah, she's no longer with us.
The worst news possible. After running on empty for days, after trying to stay strong for his shattered family, Andy absorbed the blow, was the family's stoic public face. At least, he said, they knew.
I'm kind of glad that it didn't take forever and ever.
The police didn't tell the Lloyds all they knew, just that they had an unnamed suspect in custody. It wasn't until Andy and his cousin turned on the radio the next day that they learned the identity of the suspect. Unbelievable.
They said his name, and I thought, oh no, and then they explained his position and who he was. I said, oh.
It was simply incomprehensible. This sort of news would explode like a bomb.
Everybody hit the ground running saying, boys, this is the biggest story we're ever going to have.